All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Forest Brothers podcast. It's your boy Mutsa Chris Don back in the cut, joined by my two brothers, Nkosi and Samson. What's goody, brothers? All right, so listener, in this particular episode, we'll be talking about the top five race in the Premier League. You know, we just wrapped up the last games of game week 37 today. We had Crystal Palace playing Wolves, and Crystal Palace had a comfortable win. I believe the game ended 4-2, and we had Man City playing Bournemouth. The game ended 3-1 today, so Man City have shot up to third place, if I'm not mistaken. So Kevin De Bruyne's last game at Man City Stadium, he bid his farewell to the Man City fans today. He did get subbed off, I think, around the 67th minute or so. So he didn't even get to finish that game. But, no goal or assist as his final send-off, unfortunately. Anyways, the win today, or like the games today, if we look at the point differences because between Arsenal and Man City, it's a 3-point difference. So, I mean, basically, for Arsenal, because between Arsenal and Newcastle is fourth, it's 5 points at this point. So Arsenal will either finish second or third if they lose their last game and Man City win.
Yeah, it's basically second. It's a 12-point goal difference. 12 goal difference.
Oh,
8.
yeah. I mean, is it 8?
From City, from City, it's 8.
Yeah, from City it's 8. Yeah, because Arsenal has 34 goal difference and Man City has 26.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it's pretty much a done deal, unless if Man City goes crazy on that last day and indeed do score 9 goals. And it's a 9-goal thriller, of which, given what we saw, in the last few weeks, I don't think that they have the facilities to score 9. Unless if there's some serious stat padding and referee payments, so that in Haaland scores like 5 or 6 of those goals and then he wins the Golden Boot, takes it from Mo Salah, and all those funny things. But pretty much, yeah, it's most likely not happening. So yeah, Arsenal is definitely finishing second. So the real competition is between City, Newcastle, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. They are all separated by 2 points. Actually, if you look at Newcastle at fourth, 3. Well, because Newcastle and Man City are separated by 2 points. So
Forest
But
is 65 and City 68.
but I'm just saying, like, there's a difference between, like, it's okay, between Newcastle and City it's 2 points, but if we go down from Newcastle to Aston Villa, they're all on 66 points, and then of course Nottingham Forest at 65, a point behind those guys. So we're looking at a potential toss-up that final day. I think the biggest game, from what I have gathered, in terms of the fixtures, will be, I believe, the Chelsea game is the one that most people are looking at, because Chelsea play, let me see here. I think Mangoro, you know this. They play Forest, right? So whoever wins that game is basically guaranteeing Champions League for themselves. A draw would not do well for Nottingham Forest, so I know that they're going to go for it. A draw for Chelsea could potentially be okay. But then if Aston Villa win their game or Newcastle win their game, then, no, but if Aston Villa wins their game, then Chelsea's not going to make top 5.
Yeah,
so
you have to try and win, because are you going to trust United to get something against Aston Villa?
That's the thing. Probably not, yeah. And Aston Villa are going to be pushing hard because they need the win too. Yeah. So it's a win-win. So I think that's going to be the most competitive game. So, maybe we can actually start there. So, Mangoro, when you look at that Chelsea Nottingham Forest game, what do you potentially see happening there?
I would say it's a difficult one. I honestly don't know what Maresca or Nuno will do on that particular day. I think Nuno, in essence, his whole thing is we have European football, whether it's Europa League, Conference League, or Champions League, he'll take it. I don't know if Marinakis will be very happy with that. He might be on the field. He might be dressing up this weekend, so to maybe score some goals, because he really wants Champions League. He's also taken, I think he's moved away from control of Olympiacos as well, just because he can't have two teams in the same European competition. So for him, it's very important, Mr. Marinakis. But when I look at the game as a whole this upcoming weekend, I think Chelsea also haven't been playing great. So I don't know. It's not about. I think most of these teams, particularly Chelsea, I think the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been about performances. It's about just getting the points. Like against United, we all saw what they did there. Like they didn't play well, but they got 3 points, and two defenders combined to score the win against United, who also had other problems or other things they were thinking of. So I don't know. For me personally, I still do. I think the momentum is on Aston Villa's side. And Chelsea, I think, will slip out and go to and finish fifth. I would see them drawing that. As much as I'm a Chelsea supporter, I just do not have faith in the way they've been playing and some of the stuff they've been doing. We still fielding Robert Sanchez and goals. So we're not gonna. I don't see us doing anything of note. We don't have a recognized striker because some brother decided to do other things. So all in all, I do see us. Personally, I see us drawing it. Would I want us to draw it? No, of course. I want us to win it. I don't see us winning because one, they play on the counter and they play on the counter. That's their whole MO. And we like to control the ball. And on the counter, I don't think you're catching them with their fast players there. And Robert Sanchez in goal is also just another nightmare. But we've seen them drop points against Leicester and all these other teams around them where it's Everton as well. They lost to Everton at home. So we've seen them, I'd say, vulnerable. So it just depends on what team turns up on Sunday, which Chelsea in particular. But for me personally, I think all in all, Aston Villa will go to Old Trafford and embarrass United and make top four, top five, and Chelsea will probably draw against Forest and finish fifth. That with Nottingham Forest in seventh, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think here in terms of goal difference. Let's say Chelsea win, Aston Villa win. Goal difference, Chelsea actually has 20 and Aston Villa has 9. So in the event that both Chelsea and Aston Villa win, Chelsea at least secure top 5 just based off of goal difference. So that at least is a good thing. Even Newcastle right now, Newcastle actually has a better goal difference than Chelsea at 22 and Chelsea has 20. So in that regard, yeah. So it doesn't really matter for that, but just wanted to throw it out there as well. And as you're saying, Mangoro, it really depends on which Nottingham Forest team shows up on that day. So yeah, Sangi?
Yeah, I totally agree. And Nottingham Forest, I'll keep saying it, Nuno, Emery, these guys, I think they grossly underestimate how good their teams are. Because I think, honestly, if we're being honest, Aston Villa should have had this wrapped up weeks ago. The fact that they're still trying to get in, I think, reflects poorly on the manager because that team is way better than struggling to finish on the final day. And Nottingham Forest were third at some point. They've massively fallen off. And so, yeah, it's just about what team turns up because if you just look at the teams that will show up on paper, Nottingham Forest, this is the exact type of team they want to play if they want to score goals. You have a right back who isn't the best athletically. He's still trying to get back to his full fitness. You have a left back who's mostly going to be in midfield. Those wings are going to be wide open on the counter attack. You have a very athletic 10 who can just run around all day. And Chelsea have a very undisciplined CDM and 2 undisciplined center backs. Like, what more do you want? And I think if Forest don't win this, yes, the owner's going to have words with Nuno because he's going to be like, my guy, we were third. We were doing so well. What happened? The games they've dropped points in, the games they've lost, they really shouldn't have lost those games. And they've been spanked in some games as well. Just destroyed. So, yeah, it's really a toss-up what team's going to turn up because I think just look at the fixtures. Aston Villa is definitely beating United. Newcastle, they have it secured. I think. I don't. It's Fulham, right?
Everton. Newcastle plays Everton,
Everton.
which should be an easy game for them.
Yeah,
Well,
I
not
think-
easy, but it should be
I
winnable.
think. I think they'll win that.
Especially if Isak is back. I don't know if he's going to be back or if he's out all season, but
Right.
I think he was just out for the Arsenal game because of growing injury.
They didn't want him to feel the atmosphere. He could have got his head turned. They didn't want him in the building. But yeah, Man City, Fulham. I also see Man City getting that dub there. So yeah, I feel like my gut. I mean, like just looking at the teams, I want to say Nottingham Forest to win, but they were in third. They're in seventh. They're in seventh right now for a reason. So I also see
Yeah.
them just not turning up.
Also, they play at home against Chelsea. Nottingham Forest are actually at home that game, so even more pressure. And I know the fact that they want to celebrate getting to the Champions League on the home turf. So that Greek brother, if they fail to beat Chelsea, they're at home. So we're gonna see. We might see a bust up. We might see him there at the 85th minute, standing by the touchline, look with a bunch of goons, waiting for that brother Nuno. So I think there's a lot of pressure for Nuno to make it. But I've also seen reports that Nuno is leaving Nottingham Forest at the end of the season. It seems maybe everything is it's maybe the environment is a bit too toxic for him. I don't know. I don't know if that's how true that rumor is, but I have seen some posts out there that says Nuno is leaving at the end of the season. So who knows? But if they get into Champions League, I'm sure everything will be fine, and the Greek brother will maybe give him a pay raise and like extra, it's just the pressure. But I mean, also Nuno does deserve some smoke because, as you're saying, Samson, he was in third. It was pretty much a done deal.
Yeah.
Like we even at some point, I mean, I was even talking about them finishing second. So. So they threw it all away. They threw it all away. So it's just hard. But
And
they're still within reach.
Also, Crystal Palace lifted their first FA Cup, and that's significant because Nuno lost to Man City in the semis in a game where they could have won that game. Like it's not like that was a done deal. Like Man City just destroyed them. They had chances, so like there's still pain from that. Like there's so many nearly moments from this team. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a long summer if they don't make it.
And I mean, the only thing for me that I can say to them is they have overachieved this season at the end of the day. They still did way better than I think they had projected at the start of the season. So I know it's painful because they were at the helm, but hopefully Nuno can spit it and say, look, we didn't expect to even be this good. Next season, given how good how far we came, maybe now we can push for Champions League. Now we can push for, all these other things. And I mean, they're basically gonna play Europa, so that's still European football, Like I think that's totally fine, especially if they draw against Chelsea. Like that's totally fine. So I hope that they don't let the moment of missing out on Champions League dampen the fact that they have overachieved this season. And hey, they should celebrate that. So, but yeah, as you're saying, Mangoro, it's highly Aston Villa is killing United. Because either United is going to be too drunk from celebrating if they win, or they're going to be too depressed from losing. So either way, and they might not even have a coach. I'm sure if they lose to Spurs, Amorim is quitting. So so they'll probably be getting coached by Harry Maguire, since Maguire does everything at United anyways. So I do, and Aston Villa have every hope and intention to win. The only game where maybe it's going to be a little difficult is Man City Fulham, because Fulham are not a team that just lies down. I know they lost the last game to Bournemouth, but I'm sure, yeah, they should be able to turn up. And obviously Newcastle is highly going to beat Everton, as we were saying. So we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. But Liverpool and these other guys, I guess, doesn't really matter for them. It's just even Arsenal playing Southampton. End of the day, it's just a party. It's just a good time.
I think Nwaneri is gonna play, and all the youngsters, maybe even the 15-year-old who's been killing it. Then the under 18s, maybe he'll play as well. I don't know, but it's just gonna be a good time there at the Emirates. I mean, at the Saint Stadium.
Yeah, I think with just for going back to Forest for a second, I think it's a difficult one in the sense that you were in the top three for the longest time, and come January, there were people, all the pundits talking about. I think after they drew against Liverpool, and they played so well, people are like, I don't see how they concede any goals after this game. They're so solid. They're guaranteed top three. Because at that point, there was only top four going to Champions League. The top five wasn't confirmed. And then when the top five was confirmed, uh, it was like, okay, they're definitely in. They're still in third. They're looking more up than down. And so I think that's where you came from with the whole they could potentially finish second. Maybe it was just your stab at Arsenal fans and them finishing third. I don't know if that was that, but I think I think for them and then the fall off to because like come I'd say probably the beginning of probably May or end of April, Aston Villa weren't even in the conversation. Aston Villa was in the conversation for can they to overturn it against PSG? For them to have made this miraculous comeback into the conversation and sit above Forest, I do see where it stings for them because, and then also, I think we also have to remember, as you mentioned, like the fact that for them, they didn't expect to be here today. Like, I think they were showing predictions the other day. I don't know if it was either Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher who said who said Nottingham Forest would be in his preseason predictions they'll be 20th, and for them to be seventh or potentially higher now, I think for them, I do see that angle of them being above expectations, and then, but then also at the same time, you're like, it's just like you go from it's I do understand the fall off. You go from the top tier competition of Champions League, and then if like you fall, at least fall into the Europa League. But they could potentially fall into the Conference League, which is the third tournament. I think then I do kind of see where Marinakis is coming from if they do finish in the Conference League. If he needs to have words with Nuno there because that is unacceptable. If you fall out of Champions League into Europa League, it makes sense. But if you fall two tournaments down, then there's a problem.
I think it also came at the same time that Chris Wood got injured, their fall off. So, he could also pin it to that, like, hey, listen, things changed and, we lost our main guy and we just try to survive. But I don't think that should still be an excuse.
Hey, listen, man. Like, there's a way. Like, if Chris Wood is all you lost, right? How does that explain 5-0 against Bournemouth? How does that explain what's
2
this?
2 against Leicester.
Yeah, 2-2 against Leicester. You lost to Aston Villa 2-1. Got beat at home by Everton 1-0. Lost 2-0 at home to Brentford. 1-1 Crystal Palace. That's fine, I guess. And yeah, 2-2 to Leicester. I mean, come on, like seriously, this is the team that doesn't concede. Apparently, all these results came after Liverpool when that comment was made. So yeah, I understand a little bit why the owner would be very upset with Nuno because come on, man, like your whole thing is defense. How are you getting smacked 5? So
Yeah. No, it's crazy, but just thinking about the season as a whole and how we even got into a spot where we have 5 teams essentially competing for top 5, top 4, right? Is that a good indication of where the league is at now? Because I'm not sure if I can't remember how other seasons have gone, but top 4 has always been kind of like done and dusted by this stage. Usually, like we already know who number 1, number 2 are gonna be because it's been either City and Arsenal or City and Liverpool, and then number 3, and then maybe they're trying to fight for who finishes 4th and 3rd. That's kind of like the fight. But now it's like, listen, there are 7 teams right now who are vying for things. Is that like an indication that, generally speaking, because I know we spoke about this in a previous episode where we're talking about whether the quality of the league has improved or if it hasn't, because we're seeing teams with lower points at the end at this point of the season. We're seeing more of like an equal spread because, as we're saying, between Man City and Nottingham Forest, there's just a 3-point difference. And then between Nottingham Forest and Brighton, for example, it's Nottingham Forest is 65, Brighton is 58. So that's like a 7-point difference. So is it now that we're seeing the increase in, for example, that separation between seventh and eighth? Like, okay, before it used to just be like 4 good teams. Now we've jumped to 7 good teams.
I would say the league should enlighten themselves and say they're in a better position. I think the Champions League has literally evolved into a circus trophy at this point with how they structure a lot of these things, especially like having top five now be uh Champions League teams. I think Spain also has top five. The top five will be going to Champions League next season. Like the tournament has been diluted to, I'd call it a family fun fair now, in terms of like whoever goes in, it's become like a commercial trophy rather than the actual Champions League, because you can't tell me that the top five of probably 2, 3 leagues, you're considering them for something you're calling the Champions League. It doesn't have that lucrative aspect to it. Now you're getting teams, not potentially, you're at a point where, which is why I have a problem with just how this new Champions League format works. A team in 16th and 17th in the English Premier League will be playing in the highest competition of Europe next year in the Champions League. And it's not a joke or anything. Like, it's just facts. That's going to happen. Depends on which one's not which one's better on the day. Will be in the Champions League next year, and England is going to have 6 teams in the Champions League. So this new format has truly like taken out the whole essence of what Champions League is all about. And then the trickle effect. Now we have all these other teams like Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. We've been talking about them having a terrible season. Now we're talking about them being in Europe. Like, these are teams that, when a season happens year in, year out, really shouldn't be expecting any of these people to be where they are. Now they're finishing 7th. They're going to be in Europe. We have teams like Crystal Palace who are not in the top 10, but they're going to play in the Europa League next year. So for me, I'd say, yeah, it's definitely a problem. Like, the league shouldn't fool themselves and say the league is doing well and all. Like, we don't have anyone in the final, like, or even someone who came close to the Champions League final. Arsenal, we can debate here or there, but they met some other team there on that particular on those 2 legs. Aston Villa also met that same team. Liverpool met that same team. City also met that same team. So all in all, I think the league in itself is competitive amongst itself. Like, there are a lot of average teams. There isn't a standout team, because when you look at the points gap difference and the fact that teams like Aston Villa, who played Villa Park, could potentially be back in back-to-back Champions League, Newcastle in the Champions League. Like, maybe we're not putting respect on these teams, but in traditional conversations about the top 6, we should be talking about the top 6 clubs, not talking about Aston Villa or Newcastle. No offense to them, but in all honesty, that's just how it's supposed to be. Or maybe that's just how it is now, because United and Spurs are 17th and 18th, or 16th and 17th. Maybe Spurs are 18th, who knows? But it's simply worrying, honestly, in my opinion, like, just where we look at the state of the league, because what this could potentially do heading into next season, some of these teams can fool their ways into this new commercial trophy called the Champions League, and then get embarrassed and finish in the bottom 8 or something. And then we ask ourselves, is the Premier League truly the best league? Is it truly ready to challenge? Because now, when you have people, because I can say for a fact, whoever wins the Europa League next season, this season, is getting knocked out in the group stages of the Champions League. They're not going far, and that's just fact. And probably someone else from the top 5, say for example, either Villa or Forest, or maybe even Chelsea, if they don't make recruitment, could finish outside of the knockout stages, or maybe even go to the playoffs of the Champions League because we underestimate these other leagues, and these other leagues have proved to us that they're good leagues with like the top tier teams. Like, fine, they can have farmers from like second to like sixth, but then the top elite teams, they know how to stand out, and that's just how the Champions League is supposed to be. Now it just becomes, as I mentioned, like a commercial league where it's all driven by money and not about the football anymore.
I don't know. I feel like I have to disagree with that because I like the fact that this is actually the best way to see which is the best league. Because if we now have Crystal Palace playing in Europa League, right, and they're playing some of the best teams, or this, in the second tier like Europa. If Crystal Palace does well, it shows the strength of like, okay, even if Crystal Palace can dominate other European teams now. It's not just the Premier League. And they're actually getting a chance to prove themselves. The fact that I guess United or Spurs is doing it, it's not like they got there by luck. They also had to beat other teams around them in Europe and get to that point. So again, and we'll now see, okay, do you guys have what it takes to kill it in the Champions League or to survive? This Nottingham Forest. So I think I personally like the format because it gives other teams that are not the traditional top four a chance to, number one, make more money playing in Europe. Number two, show the world whether they're good or not. And now there's some variation, but again, that's just me. I think it's actually a good thing. But Samson, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a slightly different view. I think what you're seeing is the difference in number one, coaching, and number two, the difference in investment. So the top two teams are the top two teams in England. I think Liverpool and Arsenal right now are the best run teams, and they're the best coached teams in the country. And I say that because Liverpool obviously have won the league, and they have the best player who's going to win the league. But I say Arsenal is also in that category because Arsenal, I'll remind you guys, lost their best player for 4 months and lost their best centre back for 4 months. If you do that for Liverpool, what does that mean? That means no more Salah and no Virgil van Dijk for 4 months each. Are they in the same position? And probably not. And I bring that up because an Arsenal that was diminished for a significant part of the season was still dominating most of the league. This Arsenal team was still beating teams well into March, still in the title race, still in the Champions League. There's a huge gap, in my opinion, between Arsenal, Liverpool, and everyone else this season. And between third and I'd say 12th, all the way to Crystal Palace. The difference between those teams, number one, is money. What separates it between from them being there and being in the top two is money and management. So Man City, they have all the money in the world. Squad management is horrible. It's an old team, and one player missing destroyed the whole season. That's just poor squad planning, right? Newcastle, not deep enough. A lot of money, but they're still trying to figure out this financial fair play thing. Still trying to get enough players in so that you have a good squad. Again, they will lose Isak for 2 weeks. They will not win a game in 2 weeks. That's just their situation. You have Chelsea, spent $1 billion, but still trying to make it all mesh, trying to make it work. Mismanagement. Aston Villa spent a lot, but they have a manager who doesn't know how to use his attackers. Mismanagement. Nottingham Forest, fumbled third. Mismanagement. Brighton, one day they're beating teams 3-1, the other day they're losing 7-0. Inconsistency. Brentford have always been inconsistent, and they also struggle with investing. Fulham, same kind of boat. They're not big spenders, and they're also inconsistent. Bournemouth, same thing. Crystal Palace, same thing. So there's a very clear ceiling for a lot of these teams, and it's money. And for other teams, they're just being poorly managed. And I think that's it. Because I still think the league, if you're getting everyone's best on any given day, I think those top 12 teams can do a job against each other, no matter who they're facing. I think Crystal Palace can give Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Newcastle a game if they have their best team on the floor. Same with Liverpool against all those other teams, Arsenal, those other teams. But You need your best team playing, and you need, people just ready. But that's not what's been happening all season. Had guys injured, you've had guys making funny decisions as coaches, you've had um, players losing their heads. We had Nico Jackson the other day, right? So I think the league is competitive, but I think there's just mitigating factors for some teams, and it's beyond the players' control of the pitch. It's upstairs. It's with the coach. It's with the transfers. But the only two teams that you can't say that for is Arsenal and Liverpool. I think they're fine, and everyone else kind of needs to figure it out, because I don't think this repeats itself next season. I think Man City are going to pull away, and maybe Chelsea are going to pull away if they figure their transfers out. I don't think this is a natural way for the season to end. Like, there's too much mismanagement and too much bad decisions being made that has contributed to this. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's been a competitive season overall.
My only question to you, Samson, if you're saying that Liverpool and Arsenal are so far ahead, is why did neither of them win Carabao FA Cup? If they're playing the same teams in the league right now, why didn't they progress and win more domestic titles?
No rotation. Like,
But I mean, if they're the best, right? If they have all these things, as you're saying, they should be able to comfortably win domestic cups.
not necessarily. So the round, for example, I'll start with Liverpool. The round Liverpool got out of the FA Cup was the third round. They played their C team. They played guys who hadn't played in months.
Yeah, against Plymouth.
They just like threw them on there. And those guys, number one, Liverpool shouldn't have lost the game because they were missing chances. They could have won. Like, it's not like they were just well beaten, but like, sometimes some games just don't have that much of a priority. So teams just throw anybody out there and you end up losing that game. Arsenal, similar boat. I think at that point we're dealing with some injuries, because I think Gabriel's out, Saka's out, obviously, and Man United are just, because I also think we missed a lot of chances that game, and Man United just hit us on the counter, boom, they go through. Like, stuff like that happens. Like, I'm not saying that these two teams are untouchable. I'm saying that's what's separating them on the table. The fact that they're the best coach and the best run compared to everybody else. Because that's literally what's separating these teams. Like, Man City's squad is not so terrible that they shouldn't have been in a title race. But, if you don't manage a squad well, and you have your best right back leaving halfway through the season because you realize he's washed in October, I mean, that's on you. Like, who does that? Like, how is that a regular way to manage a club? Like, I'm trying to explain it. These are like extraordinary circumstances that led to this point. So I think it's still a competitive league, but I think a lot of these teams have just been making horrendous decisions off the pitch, and it's led to this situation.
I'll be happy for, again, teams like Crystal Palace now able to play in Europe, Nottingham Forest, because then that money issue, now they actually make money, and we'll see what they're able to do with those investments. And who knows, in the next couple of years, Crystal Palace could be challenging for the Premier League. Nottingham Forest could be challenging for the Premier League, if they deal with some of these things. I don't know. Depending on how they use their money, some players they might be attracted to the type of football that Glasner plays, and the up and coming. Because I think Crystal Palace in the last 10 game weeks are probably like number 2 or 3 in terms of like win percentage, if I'm not mistaken. Like, those guys really picked themselves up in the last quarter of the season. So they've been doing really, really well. So I think there's potential, especially if they do the right business in the summertime, and the fact that they won the FA Cup gives them a bit more cash. There's now a bit more draw to, like, other players now be like, oh shit, I want to go play at Crystal Palace, So I don't know. We could see a Leicester, when Leicester won the Premier League, we could see something like that very soon.
Okay, stop. I'll stop you right there. So the situation with Palace is very similar to some teams that they've gone through this. Most likely they'll sell their best players. like in the next 2 to 3 years. Like I'm talking Mark Gahey, I'm talking Adam Wharton, uh, Eze, Glasner. Like if company doesn't pick it up at Bayern next year in terms of like going far in Champions League, I wouldn't put it past Bayern to be looking at Glasner to coach Bayern maybe next season if he continues on this trajectory. Well, actually, they'll see him in Europe next season, so they will have a gauge on if he's a good manager or not because they know him from his time at Eintracht Frankfurt because he did make I think the Europa League final or went far in the Europa League those few seasons he was there. So Palace, I don't know, man. I think they'll pretty much just stay as Crystal Palace. The guys, the Eagles, they'll just stay as being the Eagles. They won't be flying high.
And just to add on there, I want to say the league is probably the most talented it's been in a long time. And the clear side of that is the teams that got relegated. They were just no match, like at any point. Even as bad as Tottenham and United were, you know, or even as bad as Crystal Palace was. I think Crystal Palace didn't win a game in the first eight. Was it Wolves? Was it the Wolves or Palace? They didn't win a game for the
Wolves.
first 8 game
It's
weeks.
Wolves.
Yeah, 8 game weeks. They didn't win a game. Even them, they were no match, for those promoted teams. So like the talent, and it's not just the players, the coaching talent, as Mongora's laid out. You have Glasner at Palace. You have the guy at Bournemouth. I forget his name.
Iraola.
Iraola. You have the new boy at Brighton, Hertzler. You have the Brentford guy, who's always been linked, it seems, every season. And of course, Nuno and Emery. Like, there's so much talent in this league. So, yeah, I think, these teams, I don't think they're going to be, bar the Terrible Twins. I think the Terrible Twins will be terrible in whatever competition they go to next season. But all the other teams in Europe, I think they will put in some great performances because, low key, the Premier League is very talented, and it's the teams that will go into Europe, they will have something. They will have something for those European teams.
Yeah, no, let's see how it goes. But I'm hoping that we have a very exciting last day of the league. I hope we have blockbuster games. I hope we see teams really go for it and just have fun with the football, especially that Chelsea Nottingham Forest. I hope it's not like a cagey game. I'm trying to watch a 6-5, mano a mano type shit. Like, yo, we because I would hope that for Chelsea, they're like, hey, even for us, we just gotta do what we gotta do. And the Nottingham Forest are like, hey, we're just happy to be here and be able to compete to play in the Champions League. So we're just gonna do our best and just see who's got it together. So I'm just hoping for the best in that regard. And I guess a lot of it, yeah, we'll just see what happens with the Terrible Twins in the FA Cup in the Europa League final and what that means for those. But yeah, I think this is a good spot to end. I guess this was a preview of what we expect to happen, the last day of the league and top 5 race and all these fun things. So yeah, I think this is a good space. Unless if you brothers have any last words to add on to what we should expect to see on that last day.
Let's quickly give the listeners our predicted top 5s. I'll go first. Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Newcastle, and Aston Villa. That's my 5.
Yeah. I'd say Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Newcastle. This is where it gets. Yeah, I can't look beyond Aston Villa. As much as I think the Forest Chelsea game will have like fireworks, Villa just have to be united, man. That's not that hard, man. That's really not that hard, man. So yeah, I don't see Chelsea. Unfortunately, Longard, I just don't see your boys turning it up like that. They have not turned it up for weeks. So Villa for that 5th spot.
Yeah, the only thing is Aston Villa plays away at United, so I don't know if that makes a difference or not. The fact that they're not home, But you know what? The only thing that could make Chelsea stay up is just the fact that goal difference is what will probably save them. If both Aston Villa and Chelsea win. But for me, because I am a hopeful and I'm a romantic, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. That's my prediction. That is my prediction. But if I'm just being a logical person, I think the way it ends is Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Newcastle, Villa. I think that's how it goes. I am predicting a draw between Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. I think Aston Villa edges it. So hey, it's gonna be some exciting stuff. I ain't gonna lie. It's gonna be really tense. I think we might see. You guys remember that season that Man City won, Aguero scoring that last goal against QPR to win the league. I think it's gonna be one of those situations where like someone says something like, "Oh shit!" Like, "Oh Aston Villa or Nottingham Forest are beating," and some team just really needs a goal to just they just need to win, and then we'll just see some haram football in the very last minute, and they just take it away from somebody else. So I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna go. Or like Chelsea pulling out a last minute winner to secure Champions League. A Palmer screamer. I know Mangoro will be on top of the moon. Who knows how it's gonna go, but I know there'll be tears and there'll be joy for sure.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Should be
Yeah, I know. I like it. I like drama on the final day of the season. So, but anyway, listener, we'll be back here after that, and we'll give a recap on what happened, whose prediction was correct, and yeah, I guess maybe just give our final thoughts on how the season has been overall. So, but with that, I think this is a good place to end the pod. And thank you for hanging out with the First Brothers. Do comment. Let us know what you think about this top 5 race. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, with that, we will catch you on the next one. Peace out.